A very good afternoon to the students of class 8. Today we'll be learning about another grammar topic, and the chapter is on page number 37, chapter 6, non-finite verbs. Now we've already learned about verbs, alright, in the previous classes also. So verbs, they can be of two kinds in terms of structure, alright. One is the finite, one is the non-finite. So today we are going to refresh our memories about non-finite verbs. I know you have already learned about non-finite verbs in the previous classes, and this class also we're going to do it in a detailed manner, and we're going to learn about the things that we haven't in the previous classes. If we repeat also, it will be a part of your learning session or refreshing your memory. So we'll get on to that. Okay, so basically the term finite means bound. Okay, something is tied up or something is bound. It's not free. Okay, so what is it bound to? What is the verb bound to? When we say that a verb is finite, what is it bound to? It is bound to time, okay? Or in grammatical sense, which we called the tense. So it is bound to time, therefore it will change according to time. Time changes, so the verb also changes. The forms of verb also changes. How? According to past, present and future. You have present continuous, you have past continuous, then the perfect tenses. They change, alright. Just because time changes, so the verb also changes. Okay, so I think we are clear about this. When we talk about finite verbs, one thing we have to remember that it changes. It changes according to the tense. If it is in past, we're talking about past, the verb will change to its past tense, to its present tense similarly, and likewise in future as well. Okay, but non-finite, it's not infinite, okay? Non-finite, they are not bound. Now it is very ironical to understand, because bound means that it's not free, but over here they are free to change. Alright. But over here, when it is not bound, it generally means free, but irony is that they are kept fixed. So here they will not change according to anything. Here the verbs remain fixed. Alright. They remain fixed. They don't have any tense. They are not bound to time, they are not bound to tense, hence they remain fixed. Alright. So basically, according to your book, according to the definition given in Grammar Tree, you have non-finite verbs are those verbs whose form is not bound or determined by the number or the person of the subject. Not only by tense, we also know by the number, okay, singular, plural, or person, like first person, second person, or third person. You already know that when we all did tenses, we all understood that the form of verb, it changes according to the tense, number and person. Okay, but here it is not so the case. So non-finite verbs, again let me repeat, are those verbs whose form is not bound or determined by the number and the person of the subject in a sentence. In other words, if the subject in the sentence changes, it remains the same. The non-finite verb does not change. If it is a plural subject, it remains the same. If it is a singular subject, it remains the same. Unlike the finite verb in tense, alright, which changes according to the tense, or the person or the number. Although they have the appearance of the verb, one thing we'll note is that they look like verbs. Okay, but they are not verbs. They look like verbs, but they are not those finite or the real kind of verbs. Okay, they do not perform the function of the verb. The function of the finite verb is to act. show some sort of action, or state some sort of a being, the state of a being, okay, which is done using the be form of verbs, is, was, are, were, okay, so on and so forth. But here it is not so. They don't perform the function of the verb, and therefore they can change their form into anything. They can be shifted to a noun, they can be changed to an adjective, or they can be changed to adverbs as well. So over here, one thing what will we remember regarding non-finite verb other than these two is they can be used as nouns, adjectives, or adverbs, which means that they are free to change it into any form. They can change into noun, they can change into adjectives, and they can change into adverbs. They just don't remain verbs. They're not verbs anymore. That's why they are known as non-finite verbs. But in case of this, they are not free to change to any form. Yes, they are free to change to their according to their tenses, and they have to follow the rules, whatever the tense, the number the person decides. And the finite verb has to be like that. But non-finite verbs, they can change their forms to nouns, adjectives, and adverbs. Alright, so in a bit we are going to get to that. So next we move on to the kinds of non-finite verbs. Alright, so what kinds? So coming to the different kinds of non-finite verbs, there are three kinds, okay? One is the infinitive, the second is the gerund, and third is the participle. Okay, so the first is infinitive, second is the gerund, and then is the participle. I'm sure we all have gone through these topics in our previous classes. Maybe in a bit, not in a magnanimous way, but a few concepts have been taught. Alright, and now we're going to learn them from this book itself. Alright, so we are going to take one by one of these topics, one by one after the other, and I'm going to explain to you what each of these mean. Okay, so yeah. The first one I'm about to explain is the infinitive. The first thing about infinitive that we are supposed to note is that its formation. How is the infinitive non-finite verb formed? Simply you add to it. To is a preposition, okay? By simply adding to, the preposition to a verb, okay, which is in its original form, okay? The verb which is in its original form, if you add to the verb, it becomes an infinitive. For example, if you see over here, it is easy to know when someone is lying. It is easy to know. Now, to know over here, for example, in a sentence is the infinitive. Now, to is the preposition that you have, and know over here by original form I mean simplest form. Okay, simplest form. Obviously in your simple present tense, whichever is the verb. Okay, to know. So, know, known, these are the past and participles of the verb know in its proper form, simple form, present form. Okay, it will be added to the to and it becomes an infinitive. Alright, now another example I would like to give. She wants to go on a world tour. Okay, now this book, Grammar Treat, is like an abridged version of Wren and Martin, which is the Grammar Bible. Alright, so it is very easy to follow as well. Now, to plus the base form of the verb, another word for this will be the base form of the verb will be the infinitive. Now coming to the structure of infinitives. What do we mean by the structure? There are again categories under the kind of non-finite verbs, under this kind of non-finite. So first will be based on the structure. We have the full infinitive, which is a full infinitive. Okay. Which is a full infinitive. For example, an infinitive preceded by to is called a full infinitive. For example, this kind of an example will be considered as a full infinitive. To go, okay, to give, to go, and so on and so forth with the base form of the verb. This is known as a full infinitive. Alright, next comes, for example, this is a nice place to live. So infinitive, full infinitive will consist of a to plus the base form of the verb. Alright, speaking about infinitives in a general sense, it is a full infinitive. Next comes the bare infinitive. Now what is a bare infinitive? Okay, a bare infinitive is definitely without the to, where you do away or you omit the preposition to. Omit the to, okay, or without to. That is your bare infinitive. In some sentences, you will see that you don't require to put a to. If to was there, it would have been fine, but the sentence will do without the to. Alright, to preposition. For example, mother lets me watch the television only on Sundays. Here you don't require a to, but here it is an infinitive. Because lets over here is the verb. Letting, okay. Lets me watch television. So that is an infinitive over here. That is a bare infinitive. If you use the word to over here, mother lets me to watch television, it sounds very incorrect. Absolutely. Okay, it's incorrect grammar. But we use the bare infinitive over here. There are sentences where you don't require the to, and that is known as the bare infinitive. Alright. The third one that we have is the split infinitive. Now the split infinitive is like the black sheep of the lot. Alright, remember we talked about the youngest collie being the greatest fool of the lot. It's like the split infinitive is the black sheep of all the three different kinds of infinitives. Why? Let me tell you. Because here the expression to and the verb, okay, they are split and an adverb comes in between. It is a very bad style of writing grammar. Okay, it is considered to be a very bad style of writing. Now when adverb is put between the to and the verb, the infinitive it is split into two parts and it is referred to as a split infinitive. For example, we don't accept this kind of language, but then also it is there in grammar. Alright, it's inseparable though, but we don't require that. I request you to kindly grant me leave. Alright, what my guess is, this is a derivation of the translation in English. So when the mother tongue or the vernacular is being translated into English, these sort of exceptions, they come about. Therefore, we do want to avoid this. Okay, so for example, I advised her to at once report on duty. Please avoid. Okay, avoid the use of the split infinitive. Instead, if you want to use it as an infinitive, write it in this manner. I advised her to report on duty at once. Put at once at the back. Alright. That is adverb of time. So put that at the back and then it will be better for you to understand. For example, I request you to kindly grant me leave. Do not use the word kindly like that in letters. Okay. So you can just write it in this way. I request you to grant me, it would be very kind of you to grant me leave. Alright. I would request It is my humble request that it would be very kind of you to grant me. I know it sounds it's a long sentence, but then also that is the correct grammar that is to be used. Okay, so these are the proper uses of the infinitives. Next we move on to, I'm not going to use the board for this, I'll just use the book because I assume we all have the book. So I'm going to talk about the uses of the bare infinitive. Now verbs like feel, hear, make, find, watch, see, observe, let, they are always followed by the bare infinitive. I heard her scream in anger. Heard. They let us play in the park. I feel she loves to watch movies. I feel, yeah, that's it. Okay. For example, observe. I observed your I observed her leave the meeting abruptly. Alright. So leave over here, that's the bare infinitive. That's it. Okay. So these verbs, they always follow the infinitive. Next, expressions. Okay, like had better, would rather, sooner than, no sooner than. You had better leave now. He would rather suffer than be dishonest. Would rather. He would rather no sooner than she saw the boy, she left the meeting abruptly. Okay, continuing with that. However, they are followed by the bare infinitive. For example, again, expressions with why and why not. Why worry about the future? Why to worry about the future? That is what you mean, but you have to do without the to over here. You can omit it. Why not to take a taxi? Sounds very bad, but why not take a taxi? Why not go to the movies after your shift is over? Okay, so it's like that. Then modal verbs. You know modal verbs, we've just done them. They are followed by the bare infinitive, except for ought, because ought is always used with to, ought to, right? So you must carry your passport. We never say you must to carry. You must carry your passport. We ought to inform the police. Then to inform is used. Otherwise, all bare infinitives are used with modal verbs. Okay, so here we are done with the infinitives. Now we move on to the next bit, which is the gerund. Alright, now coming to the second bit, which is the gerunds. This will be pretty easy for you to understand because a gerund, it looks like a verb. Obviously, it ends in ing. We've done this in the previous classes also. It's a verb that has an ing ending, but it functions, it works, alright? It works as a noun, alright? So, it can be the subject. When I say functions as a noun, it means that it can act as the subject, it can act as the object in a sentence. Okay, so it can occupy the various positions in a sentence if it is a gerund. You know it very well, all the functions of a noun. For example, the first function that it would perform is that being the subject of the verb. Okay, subject of the verb. For example, burning of leaves should be banned. The burning of leaves. Burning over here, it is a gerund. It looks like a verb, but it acts as a noun. I am sure we've all done this in the previous, the first part of it we've done in the initial part we've done in the previous class. Okay, should be banned. Okay, should be banned over here is the verb. Okay, modal verb, banned is the verb obviously. So burning of leaves. Then it can also act as the object of the verb. Okay, we really enjoyed playing cricket. We is the subject, playing cricket. Okay, that is the object. Obviously, it's a noun phrase. You know it very well. Object of the transitive verb. It can also act as the object of the preposition. Alright. So, for the previous one, you always know the transitive verbs, they have objects. Okay, so object of the transitive verb. Now, object of a preposition. How? He gave no reason for coming late. for coming over there is the object of the preposition. For coming, okay, late. For what? Coming late. So that is like a noun phrase again. So coming late. Yes. So acting as the object of the preposition. Alright. Next, it can also be a complement of the verb. What is the complement? What is the complement of the verb? When verbs are incomplete. We remember verbs of incomplete predication? We do, right? So verbs that need a complement to complete its meaning, whether a transitive or an intransitive. Okay, so especially it is for the object that you need a complement, which is an object. She loves. What does she loves? This is an incomplete verb. So solving crossword puzzles. You have to add something to complete the meaning of the verb. That is incomplete predication. And the complement over here, solving crossword puzzles, a gerund is used. Okay, so it acts as a complement of the verb. And the last one that you have, it absolute phrase. Okay, a noun phrase. It acts as a noun phrase. Playing cards being his hobby, he wastes a lot of time. Playing cards. It acts as a noun phrase. It starts off with the noun phrase. It completely performs the function of it. Okay, so this was your gerund for you. I hope you all have understood this. It is clear. Now we move on to the next bit, which is the participles. The third part of non-finance that we are going to learn or refresh today are participles. Okay. Alright. So participles, just like the gerunds, alright. Gerunds, I know they act as a noun. You know that they act as a noun. Whereas participles, they also look like verbs but act as adjectives. We all remember what adjectives are? Describing words always preceded by a noun or that comes after a noun, with the verb. Alright, so that is your adjectives. It describes a noun, points out a noun. So a verb, a word that looks like a verb but acting as an adjective will definitely be termed as a participle. Alright, it functions as an adjective. So it is also known as a verbal adjective, like gerunds are known as verbal nouns. These are verbal adjectives. Now this also has three parts. Okay, the first one is the present participle. Okay. So, how is it formed? It is formed by using the verb plus ing. Now, it won't act as a noun. Therefore, it is not a gerund. Whether it looks like, even though it looks like a gerund, it is not a gerund. Remember that. So have these pretty much clear in your head. Okay. So for example, in your book it is said at page number 39, the example, opening the door, she went out hastily. Here you are describing the door. How was the door? It was open, or it was on the verge of being opened. Okay. Opening the door, she went out, or it was being opened by somebody. When you want to describe that, you are using participle. So, opening the door, she went out hastily. Or, I comforted, it can be used in the middle of a sentence also like an adjective to describe the noun. I comforted the crying child. What kind of a child? A crying child. The child who was crying. You are describing the child over here. So, that is a present participle. Okay. The next one that you have over here is the past participle. Okay. Past participle. Now how does it look like? It will have, remember those participles that you had studied when we did those columns of regular and irregular verbs. Okay. for example, the simple form, the past form, the present, past and participle. We're going to take which were used in the perfect tenses. We are going to take into account those participles that you had learnt long ago when you started doing verbs. Okay, so that participle is used over here as a non-finite. So how is it going to be taken? Obviously the simple form of the verb plus, you can put ed or en as in broken. Okay, like d or t, kept, right? The bit, bitten, bite, bitten. Okay, and then you have these or n, no, known, known, sorry. Okay, so this will be the different kinds of participles, the past participles that will be used as adjectives in a sentence to describe another noun. Okay, now why do we use these participles? To make our conversation easy, to make it more specific, to make it more meaningful. Alright, to have that edge in grammar, to have that edge in communication, to have that command in language. Okay, that is why we use these in order to speak in a, have a conversation in a deeper manner, with lots of meaning, with lots of purpose. Alright, so for example, we can say aroused by the shooting in the same manner like the first one. Aroused by the shooting, you can start off with the participle. I went out to see what was happening. Next, the beaten team, which means the team that was beaten, the team that was lost. Okay, the beaten team left the field despondently, means sadly. Aroused by the shooting, I was aroused. Okay, I'm using that as an adjective to describe myself. So aroused by the shooting, I went out to see what was happening. And whenever you start the sentence with a participle and not in the middle just to describe the noun, you write it in two parts and separate the two parts with a comma. Okay, the subject comes later on. Like in the first sentence, opening the door, she went out hastily, and then aroused by the shooting, I went out to see what was happening. The subject comes later on. Okay, so that is the second one. And the third one is the last one for today's lesson, after which I'm going to end very quickly, wrap up. So that will be your perfect participle. Okay, this also has a perfect participle. For example, obviously for perfect tenses you have always used have, had. Okay, here also we're going to use the same thing. So having, and if it is a continuous one or a present one, you are going to use so you use the past participle with the having been. Like in perfect tense, in finite verbs, you use the past participle, you use the past tense, okay, or the participle with have. So here also you use the past participle with having or having been. How is your sentence going to sound? Having said that, I will now point out the difference. Having completed his work, obviously, which is describing that the work had been completed a few moments ago. Okay, just a few moments ago. Having completed his work, he switched on the TV. Right at the moment, just now. Okay, so that's it. And last but not the least, I would say the perfect participle, it also takes a passive form. So you use it in case of writing your passive sentences. When you change them from active to passive, you can use that also. Having been warned, he stood away from the tiger's cages at zoo. Okay, having been defeated in the chess game, he congratulated his opponent. So when you have the active with present perfect, the continuous tenses, so you can definitely change that to passive and write it in this manner. Having been defeated, having been warned, alright, and so on and so forth, whichever verb is there in the sentence. Okay, so with this, I definitely I think we have completed with non-finites. Okay, no practice worksheet will be given to you, and you will definitely find it in the next week's consolidated. The exercises of this week's this chapter will be there in the consolidated assignment. Okay, thank you for watching the video, and please watch it before you get to class. Okay, so thank you, children.